Good afternoon. Thank you for joining through an Orthodox Christian lens. It is December 28th, 2024. I have a lot to go over on this issue of Vivek, Elon, and MAGA, and the state of the American culture. So we're going to start with what Vivek said the other day that everybody's going on about. I'm going to read it over really quickly to see, just to get this started. He said on the 26th, I believe it was, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. And he goes on about this, venerating people who are the cool guys, the jocks, the popular people versus the nerds. It will not produce the best engineers. And he goes on to say, I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. So more movies like Whiplash, for fewer reruns of Friends. And I've never seen a full episode of Friends, just to let you know. More math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV. This is more like the Asian model here that he's reading. In any case, so most normal American parents look skeptically at those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grow up aspiring to normalcy is what you will achieve. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s or even now who raised their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutally honest. Normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market for technical talent, and if we pretend like it does, we'll have our asses handed to us by China. This could be our Sputnik moment. So he's basically trying to motivate the American people to be better, is what I got out of that. I think there's a good portion of what he says there I agree with. I do think I think this happened before the 90s. My own experiences through school and then through my kids' school, I learned a lot. So this is what he says, and people are upset because of the H-1B visa. So let's look that up. So it's a visa. The visa is a non-immigrant work visa that allows U.S. employers to hire skilled foreign workers in specialty occupations. It is the largest visa category in the United States in terms of guest worker numbers. So the purpose is the visa is designed for employment in specialty occupations that require a specialized or technical body of knowledge, such as architecture, engineering, mathematics, and computer science. There are Americans that specialize in these particular technical positions. MAGA is upset because they are taking foreigners and bringing them in and taking away American jobs. And apparently you can do this. This is a duration of 3 years. It can extend to mostly of 6 years. They only allow 65,000 visas a year. An additional 20,000 for set aside for graduating with master's degrees in IR. Okay, well, the issue is for me is people are always wanting to be in one camp or the other. Oh, be on my side, be on my team. That's kind of how America's always worked. Oh, I'm going to jump on this team, and I'm going to be part of this team so I can, go against that team. When in reality, both MAGA and Vivek and Elon are both right on certain issues, okay? So, well, I'm going to put up here Elon's. We should greatly increase legal immigration of anyone who is hardworking, honest, and loves America. Each such person is an asset to the country, but massive illegal immigration of people we know nothing about is insane. Okay, so he makes sense that he's not for illegal. I mean, that's all part of it. I do have to say that what Vivek said in us becoming better people is the epitome of the MAGA slogan, Make America Great Again. Make America Great Again. Because America has been in decline for probably 50 years. And I know I see people saying, "Oh, look what all these things that we did. Look at all the inventors we had, all the entrepreneurs, and all this." Okay, but the whole education system is a mess. Okay, and I'm going to go into all of that. I'm going to go into the all of this about that. Now, I agree with the cheaper labor thing. They're going to get these foreigners and they're going to be paid cheaper. And some are saying they're not that great of workers. They're not that pristine. And the Americans can do the job. They're losing their jobs to this. And of course, I'm against that. I think anybody who's American would want American workers to be the ones to get the jobs because this is their country. Okay. This is our country, but I suggest that they totally reform that, or perhaps get rid of it at some point. But in the meantime, I think our generations of kids coming up, they need to go back. When I say make America great again, you need to go back to a time when education was better, the culture was better, and I'll say, I'll read you this. So, the decline of American culture. The era of everyone's a winner has contributed to the decline of American culture by fostering a sense of entitlement and lack of challenge. This mindset, where every individual is deemed a winner, regardless of their actual performance, has led to a culture where people are not motivated to push themselves beyond their comfort zones. Lack of challenge. The absence of challenge and competition has resulted in a lack of resilience and perseverance among individuals, making them less equipped to handle failures and setbacks. Failing students. The practice of passing students who are failing classes has also contributed to the decline of American culture. This approach can lead to a lack of accountability and a sense of complacency, as students are not held to high standards and are not encouraged to strive for excellence. So the consequences of this decline can be seen in various aspects of American society, including education, economy, and social structures. The lack of challenge and accountability can lead to the workforce that is not adequately prepared to compete in the global market, ultimately affecting the country's economic prosperity and social cohesion, which I believe has been going on for decades. I have seen this for quite a long time. And the fact that Vivek just brought up the obvious, or that was memory hold, that was forgotten, I think is a good thing. People need to know this because I started to see a lot of that change in the 90s that I can recall. That's when I recall the change in, they started bringing in the everybody's a winner. And, if that's the case, look at the Olympics. We wouldn't even have the Olympics because if nobody was going to be challenging others to be the best. And in my opinion, you don't even have to have a competitor. You can compete against yourself to be a better person. Spiritually, that's what we do. We have to work on our own souls, our sins, and repentance, and work through that to become a better person, to grow closer to God, to become saints, to gain theosis sometime at the end of our journey or beyond. This is all, to me, kind of, it can relate. So, making ourselves better, we're better people overall, because it's a holistic approach to me. Striving to be better at everything that you do. And it could be, for God's glory, kind of what I tried to do, but everybody should be striving for that so that they can become the best. And then Americans would overtake these foreigners that supposedly are much more intelligent or better in what they do than we. But to me, that's up in the air. I wouldn't just automatically assume that. But that's what I think Vivek was going for. We need to go back to being the best. We need to go back to those days when we were doing that. And so I do agree that there is the DEI problem. There's part of it in the decline, where you just put people in because of their identity instead of the actual merit of them, what they can actually do, how well they perform their job. And so I think that's part of the reason. The schools are just not teaching the way they used to. I mean, even when I was in school through the 70s and 80s, and my dad was complaining then about how the schools have gone down the tubes, okay? And the reason is because exactly what they said, passing fails. Look, I was a slacker in high school. And I mean, in junior high, I had to do summer school. And, I did that, but I wasn't much better in high school. I did not like school. I hated school. I just didn't want to do anything that I didn't like. And there are a lot of kids like me that don't fit into that public school system, and they just get lost in the holes. They just fall into the abyss because they don't fit in. They don't tread that path that maybe many kids can do, that do. So I got passed on a few classes I shouldn't have. I guess they just didn't want to deal with it. I don't know, but I think that was a problem because kids come out not prepared, just like it says in here. And I've seen this. I also, the main issue is I have seen what happened from what I learned through literature and English class, specifically because I have a BA in English and creative writing. Because that is my field and what I've been looking at and working with, I can see the deterioration over the years from my schooling to my kids' schooling, all through my kids' schooling. So the first few years of their school, they learned cursive, then they didn't. They took cursive out, but cursive is important because you are using a different part of your brain than when you print. So it's important to have both of those, printing and cursive. Regularly doing that because it works different parts of your brains and there's a creativity there that's important. The other one is my kids the teachers did not seem to care if my children had spelling errors, grammar errors. Oh no, it's just what story you come up with, how you write your paper, what ideas you do. Are you talking about this and that? It's not that. We can excuse the grammar and the spellings. Well, when I was in school, all of those counted as points off. So yes, things have changed. Things became dismissive on things that are important. I think that kids should know. Now, what Vivek is centering on, or Elon is centering on, is more to do with math, STEM. I've never gotten into that because I've never been a math person. I've not been good at that. But I understand what they're saying. But I assume that the kids that are learning, hopefully, I guess it depends. What kind of math are they being taught? How are they being taught? School, the whole public school system, all the way they teach needs to be, the curriculum all needs to be reformed and overhauled and done over. Just start over. So I found that important. I have my own experiences. So, like I said, when I was in business college, I had 7 English classes, and they're very particular about your grammar. I mean, when I was doing mailables, which were letters to companies, practice letters, you would get an F if you had a comma splice in there. That's how serious they were about this. You had to have it perfect. It was either A or F. That taught me a lot because I was a slacker in high school, and then when I took a year off, worked at a record store and did all that, and then I realized I needed to go to school, so I'll go to business school because I know how to type. Once I did that, I was ready to learn. And boy, yeah, I went from a slacker to a stickler. Everything had to be a certain way, and I'm still like that. So I thank that school for being that strict. It really helped me to become more of a professional when I went into the office world in the early to mid 90s. When I was in college, the other issue is all this teaching about identity politics, politically correct. All those people involved with the rainbow flag, okay? Critical race theory, all these things. What you really should be what's important in an education is to have a well-rounded one with all the basics, math, reading, writing, and then you need the overall arts, okay, instruments, different kinds of arts, painting, writing, sculpting, whatever, singing, whatever it is, playing a sport. Not all kids can do that, but the classes that are important are the core classes, but also philosophy, humanities. I loved my humanities classes when I was in college from 2014 to 2018. I loved the 2 humanities classes I took. I would have taken more if I could have. There's so much you can learn about cultures, and I love the cultural anthropology class as well. You can learn so much through that. Historical things, they're important. Not these new trends that are trying to pass as, important. They're not. I think people need to, and the reason why I say that is because when in my literature classes, there was we did some work on Shakespeare, and I did my report on The Twelfth Night, that play. The kids that were younger than me, obviously, mistook the female character in the play when she dressed like a man, because she had lost her brother, I believe, or they were in a shipwreck, and she didn't have any male family relatives. So she dressed like a man so that she could get in and get a job, because girls couldn't be by themselves in that era. Well, the younger students in the class assumed that she was a transgender. This is what I'm saying. You're looking through the lens of this warped idea, especially trying to look at a different era, hundreds of years ago, and reading it in a 21st century distorted lens. And they didn't understand that Shakespeare was writing about a celebration of Epiphany. Okay, so back then, and it still is for Orthodox, by the way, Christmas Day, the 25th, through the Epiphany are the 12 days of Christmas, not the 12 days before Christmas. It really is the 25th of December through January 6th. And so he did the 12th night, which is, they did a thing in Shakespeare's England at that time called they had a king for that time, the 12 days, and it was called the King of Misrule. So he would be ruling over the people that were doing these celebrations and parties every day. The women would dress like men, the men would dress like women. That was the fun that they were doing for that particular time. And then queens would dress like peasants, and peasants would dress like queens. The commoners, and vice versa. So they would do that until Epiphany. And that was what he was going by. But it also went to the history of the time that women could not be out without a male escort, a relative, so father, brother, uncle, somebody. But nobody took nobody took that into account when reading that. And when I turned in my report to my teacher, I got an A on it. I think that I appreciated the fact that she said, I really appreciate that you added in the 12 days of Christmas, the Epiphany, and all that for context. I said, yes, context is very important. So that's what I'm saying. And the first history class I had it first, and we would have these discussions on a message board, and there were some people, as maybe 10 years younger than me, maybe even the same age, but mostly people who are younger, they didn't know how to write really well at all. I mean, I saw some that couldn't even put words together, and I thought, how in the world did they get through school? That's what I'm saying. Did they just pass them? So that was important. Then we have, I did a report on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Mary Shelley was in the Romanticism era. So the writing was very rich. It was very poetic, and she was a fantastic writer. Well, there's a part where Victor Frankenstein feels like he has no friends. He lost his friends. He misses his friends. He's pining over his friends. His friend who was a man, and somebody just immediately assumed that Victor was gay, and that this man who was the captain of the naval ship that he was on, that he was gay, because it's actually the naval officer that said that he missed his friends and all that, ignoring the context of the time, of how they spoke in novels then, how men spoke. I mean, I looked up an article on that because people didn't understand, and even the teacher was like, oh yes, that's probably it. That is not it. Men at that time, a man's friendship with another man was more valued to them than their relationship with their wife as marriage. I know it sounds weird, but that's how it was. The camaraderie was very important to them. And the way they spoke, that's how they spoke then. It was a very higher quality and understanding of how you communicated to people. And let's remember, at that time, nobody was going to be talking about their personal feelings sexually, no matter what it was, okay? You didn't get into that kind of stuff. Nobody bothers to think about the historical aspect of the time. And so I'm just saying, they needed to understand what was going on, and nobody seemed to want to go and delve deeper into this to understand it. And that's why I'm saying, and the fact that the teacher didn't say anything but just went along with that, that's a problem. Because she doesn't want to say no. She doesn't want to be hurt anybody's feelings. She doesn't want to get in trouble by the principal or the superintendent or whatever. That, oh no, you didn't speak the woke way you're supposed to, the politically correct way, and then you'd be fired. Well, this whole thing has been this whole experiment has been a disaster to the education system of our kids, and how people aren't, they need to learn that, as you can see, nobody is learning the way this is. Well, at least a lot of them aren't. So I wanted to share that, and I know I went on a long time, but I just wanted to share that with you. And I may come back and add more later or something, but I will, in conclusion, I will say, yes, America culture has declined, so Vivek is right. We aren't as centered on being the best as we should be, and being the best not in a arrogant, boastful, poor sportsmanship way, in a healthy way, in a community way. Help your community by being the best you can be, so that others can be as good, and you support them to be the best they can be as well. But this is not what's going on, as we said, as I read. And so both MAGA and Vivek and Elon are right on certain aspects of what they said. And I think arguing over this to the point of people getting angry and insulting to each other, and even some racist remarks, I saw that early on towards Indians, and no, this doesn't have to be like that. And this is why there's the problem with the tribalism of you're not on my team, and that's what happens with the political parties. Well, you're not in my political party, so you're not, you're my enemy. This is the problem with American culture. There's a lot of problems, but that's one of them. And this area is one of them. So I will be back later. I don't want to take up too much time because it takes a while to upload these things, but I wanted to share that with you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following my channel. Please follow my channel if you haven't followed my channel, and like my videos. Share my videos, share my channel, pass it along. Until later, I hope you have a good afternoon.